Welcome. My name is Cyndy Walton, and I'm the worship associate this morning and a part of the team that is working to record this service for your pleasure, wherever you may be. We are an inclusive congregation that welcomes you as you are, inclusive of all your identities, complexities, and situations. We welcome your whole self, even if it isn't fully assembled, because we recognize that we are all a work in progress and that we are all in this together. The service is being posted on our YouTube page and will be available at 11 and will also be there for you to watch later if you choose. Now, if you would like, please say with me our opening affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship. For these high purposes do we unite in worship. As we light our chalice this morning, I want to share these words from Lisa Doge. She is a UU minister, and the title of this piece is Chalice Lighting for Challenging Times. Why a flaming chalice? The question comes. It's the cup of life, we answer, a cup of blessings overflowing, a cup of water to quench our spirit's thirst, a cup of wine for celebration and dedication, the flame of truth, the fire of purification, oil for anointing and for healing, out of chaos, fear, and horror. Thus was the symbol crafted a generation ago. So may it be for us in these days of uncertainty, sorrow, and rage, and a light to warm our souls and guide us home.
Welcome. Welcome to this day, this hour, this place, this body. Together, we will answer a call to love. Together, we will create a thing of great beauty. Together, we will find the sacred in the spaces in between. Together, we will worship. Welcome. And now, kids, I have a little time for you, so come on closer, all right? When I was a little girl, I had a lot of time doing nothing. It was very boring back then. There was just a whole lot of time where there was nothing much happening. And so if I wanted something to happen, I had to make it happen. It was pretty common like that back then. So I read a lot of books. And sometimes I would just dance to music, and I came to spend a lot of time looking at plants. I learned to look really closely at their stems and their leaves and their flowers, and sometimes I would get out my magnifying glass and look at them very closely. Oh yeah, I was a nerd that way. And then I started learning how to grow African violets. They're wonderful. The leaves are fuzzy and the flowers are shimmery. They're so pretty. And I learned to look at their roots. My friend Lynn, she used to also grow African violets. When she was a little girl, though, she was afraid of the roots because they looked kind of weird. They creeped her out. She liked putting them back in the soil where she didn't have to see them. I learned all of the names of the different parts of the plant, the petals and the sepals and the stamens and the petioles. I learned how to grow plants from seeds and from rhizomes and from cuttings. And I learned that plants can be identified by different families. And when I got older, I learned the scientific names of the plants. I learned that every member of the mint family has square stems. Go check it out. Peppermint, basil, catnip, they all have square stems. And I learned that trees don't really die of old age like animals do. They die because of damage or illness. But eventually I learned that learning all about the plants, the enzymes and the auxins and the photosynthesis and the osmosis, all of the science, all of the labels, none of my knowledge actually makes the plants grow. I can create a situation that plants like to grow in, but I do not make them grow. I still don't know if they grow because they simply like growing, or if they grow because there is something else that likes them growing. Perhaps they are growing because they are working at changing our world. One leaf, one flower, one stem, one tendril at a time. I could live with that. What do you think? Why do you think the plants are growing? Let me know what you think. I'd really like to hear. And stick around, because there's a lot of pretty stuff coming, okay? I love you. I miss you. I look forward to seeing you soon. At this time in our service, we share our inmost felt joys and concerns. This week, nobody sent anything in, but that's okay, because I have one amazing joy, and that is that our community here in Amarillo came together yesterday on Saturday for an event to recognize that it's important to be counted in the census and it's important to vote. So for all of those of you who came to the event at Bones Hook Park yesterday, thank you. I'm very proud of all of us. I'm very proud of our community. And let me light one more candle for the joys and concerns that weren't expressed this week, but are keenly felt, and we would love to share them.
As you feel inclined, please repeat with me our new mission. Our spiritual community lives courage, nurtures wonder, inspires justice, includes all.
And now, let us take a moment to follow our breath into those places that we've rushed over all week. With each breath, I invite you to go deeper and find that part of your own center that needs attention. Breathing in, breathing out. Spirit of love and life, what is unfurling in my center? What is growing and reaching? What is creeping and leafing out? What part of me is stretching towards the light or wrapping around a trellis for support? Can my animal being learn from plants? Can I root myself to this place and through every exchange with the soil and the sun and the wind and the water? Can this change the world? What rocks will I break apart with my roots? What shade will I create? And what will I feed with my being? And what might happen if my love for this world should appear as a flower? What will be different if I should breathe, knowing that my breath will sustain another being? Breathing in, breathing out. Blessed be.
All of Us Are Beautiful by Thomas Rhodes. We come in a variety of colors, shapes, and sizes. Some of us grow in bunches. Some of us grow alone. Some of us are cupped inward, and some of us spread ourselves out wide. Some of us are old and dried and tougher than we appear. Some of us are still in bud, and some of us grow low to the ground, and some stretch toward the sun. Some of us feel like weeds sometimes. Some of us are prickly sometimes. Some of us carry seeds sometimes. And some of us smell. And All of us are beautiful. What a bouquet of people we are.
history to all of this. Yes, I know it feels like tradition, but the history came first. How we respond to history is what shapes our traditions. So let's go back and review the history first. It starts with a heretic. He didn't mean to become a heretic, but these things happen. His name was Norbert Čapek. He was born in the Czech part of southern Bavaria in 1870. As a young man, he broke away from the Catholic Church that he had been raised in, and he became ordained as a Baptist minister. He preached widely throughout Central Europe, but he kept his ears and his heart and his mind open, and he became even more theologically liberal. He married, he had a large family, but as the First World War was brewing, he had the chance to move his family to the United States and study for a PhD. He brought the whole family over, but shortly after they arrived, his wife died, leaving him a widower. While he was studying, he kept on preaching, but he kept irritating the other Baptist ministers in the church. Twice, he was accused of heresy for his liberal convictions. Things were just not working out well. But also, while he was studying, he met another Czech, a woman named Maya. They fell in love and they were married, and together they discovered the Unitarian Church there in New Jersey. And this church and the ways that it observed Christianity, it felt so much better to both Norbert and Maya. So much better that Norbert became a Unitarian minister. After the war ended, they returned to the city of Prague, where they formed the very first Unitarian congregation in that city. And Maya worked right alongside Norbert, and in 1926, she was also ordained to serve as a minister. Norbert was a charismatic leader, and the church grew to over 3,000 members. At one point, it was the largest Unitarian congregation in the world. Their worship services were very simple. They'd stripped away all the rituals of the Catholic Church and even the Baptist tradition. Pretty much, it was just time coming together, listening to a lecture. But in 1923, Norbert wanted to create a simple ritual, something that could show his community how beautiful they were by being together. He knew that most of them would not really be comfortable with the old bread and wine community of the Catholic Church, so he created something new. Everyone was asked to bring a flower from their gardens or even just picked from alongside the road. Then, when they came into the service, each person added their flower to a vase at the front of the church. This symbolized the free will that each person brought with them as they came to worship. Together, their flowers formed a beautiful bouquet, and then as everyone remained standing, Reverend Čapek placed a blessing upon the arrangement. At the end of the service, each person was invited to take home a different flower to remind them of the beauty of their coming together and how they were part of this community. The people loved the flower communion, and it became the way that their congregation started every summer. Now, here's where the story gets tough. In the 1930s, the governments in Europe were not getting along very well, and another war seemed likely. Friends back in the United States invited Norbert and Maya to come back here to be safer, and in 1939, Maya did come back to the U.S., but Norbert stayed in the city of Prague to be closer to the congregation. While she was here, Maya wound up serving as the minister of a Unitarian congregation in Massachusetts, and in 1940, she introduced the flower communion to the congregation in Cambridge, Massachusetts. People loved it right away, and it slowly began to spread from church to church to church. However, while Maya was here, war did break out in Europe. She was unable to return. She was unable to even contact Norbert. She couldn't reach him. The Nazi Party had taken control of Prague very quickly, and Maya did not know what was happening or if Norbert was safe. It was only after the war that she learned that all of his books and sermons had been confiscated and destroyed, and that he had been arrested for listening to radio broadcasts that were critical of the Nazis. She learned that Norbert had been arrested, tortured, and gassed to death in 1942 at the concentration camp in Dachau. In 1943, Maya left the ministry and began working with the United Nations to help rebuild her home country. She continued this work until her death in 1966. And I'm sad to say, while the Unitarian Universalist Association has lots of resources about Norbert Čapek, we still have very little posted about Maya, and she's the one who brought this here. This needs to be addressed. Now, when I was a little girl, the flower communion had not yet reached my congregation in Detroit. But by the time I was a young adult, it was everywhere. And now most Unitarian Universalist congregations have some version of the ritual in the spring or early summer. And while I was reading about all this, I learned that Reverend Maya Čapek did not really like having flower communion celebrated at the same time as Easter. So I'm going to make sure I don't do that. Some people like calling it a communion. Some people want to call it a ceremony. Words matter. A ceremony is a formal event. Some people, though, might just come to watch. Not everyone is needed to make it happen. It's not entirely about the community. However, communion is about reminding us that we are part of something larger. And every person in a communion has to participate to make it happen. It's about community. So this is why I prefer to call this ritual a flower communion. And even as every congregation might use it, they might call it something different. They might use different words and different parts of the rituals. They might have different emphasis. They, of course, have different flowers. Sometimes the flowers are received and redistributed by the children in the congregation. Sometimes people hand their flowers to someone as they enter the sanctuary. Sometimes people are asked to put their flowers in a vase. Sometimes people line up to choose a flower. Sometimes the flowers are passed round in baskets. Last year, here at our fellowship, we changed it up just a tiny bit for a very big reason. Last year, we invited people to place their flowers in a vase as they entered the building, and then the children brought the vases of flowers up to the chancel area. It was such a beautiful bouquet with so many different flowers. And then, in the service, we invited people to come forward in a line. I took one flower and handed it to the first person. Then they chose a flower and handed it to the next person. And so it went. Everyone received a flower, and everyone chose a flower for someone else. That wasn't too big of a change, was it? Here's why we did it that way. To shift us, just for a moment, from I culture to we culture. So much of what is beautiful about the flower communion is that it reminds each of us of how we are different and how together we make something beautiful. But sometimes the ritual can get stuck on individuality. It can sort of get stuck on how each of us is a powerful, free agent, separate and lovely. Assembled, we create something beautiful, but then as individuals, we select the flower we want for ourselves. This choosing what I want for me is very prevalent. It is so ingrained in our culture that it seems entirely normal, preferable, better. But choosing what I want for me is also part of the culture of consumerism, and it prefers the I over the we. So the simple shift of choosing a flower and presenting it to the person next to you, we interrupted that preference and we practiced an act of mutualism over consumerism. By thinking not of what I want, but what would be good for another person, I stretch myself larger. By receiving the flower chosen by another and given freely to me, I must soften and accept their gift, and this stretches me larger. This morning, this year, like so many other UU congregations, we've moved even our flower communion online into a virtual space, and we invited everyone to send in photos or drawings of flowers, and we've put them all together into a digital bouquet. We've added people's names to the slides so that we can remind ourselves that we are still a we, even as we are in our separate homes, even as we are using our separate screens. I'm doing this to remind you that this congregation is still beautiful. We are people who care. We are people who create. We are people who explore, not alone, but together. And this is so beautiful. Blessed be. Amen.
Usually at this point in our service, we would be passing the basket. But since that's not happening today, if you have made a pledge or would like to make a contribution, you may simply mail it to our office, or you can make it online. There is a donate button on your YouTube landing page and on our website, uuamarillo.org. On the home page in the upper right corner, you will find a blue donate button that will take you to a place where you can donate securely through PayPal, whether you already have a PayPal account or not. If you've made a financial pledge for this year, please keep up with your pledge. While we're not meeting as a large group in person, some groups are still meeting. Nothing Much Buddhist group will continue to meet on Mondays at 7:30 p.m. using Zoom. Please check their Facebook group for more information. And on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m., our adult religious education group, led by Lydia Miller, is still meeting via Zoom. If you have questions or would like to be invited to this, please contact Lydia. If you are on Facebook and want to stay in touch with one another, we have a group page called the Beloved Community. Please let Lydia or Nell know if you are interested in joining this group. On it, we are posting games, artwork, music, and sweet messages. Reverend Nell is hosting informal Zoom gatherings twice a week. You're welcome to drop in for after-dinner coffee on Tuesday at 7 or join her for tea time at 4 p.m. on Thursday. For more information, check your newsletter, visit the Beloved Community Group, or reach out to Reverend Nell directly. And here sounds like fun. Monday night at 7, John Hintz is going to be playing bingo online with Minnesota's favorite beauty queen, Miss Richfield 1981. Contact John Hintz for a Zoom link and watch on your computer. Play bingo on your phone or tablet. The bingo is free. And now I want to thank Larry and John for all the work and time they have put into making these online services available. We are so blessed to have guys with the skill and the talent and the commitment to make this happen for us. And as we extinguish our chalice today, we know that though the flame in this chalice is no longer burning, the one in our hearts is burning as brightly as ever.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
May the fellowship of this hour touch and move our lives until we come again together.
As you go out into this world, please take these words with you. You are essential to this astonishing moment. You are a part of all creation, perishing, and recreation. You are beautiful. You are beloved. You belong. Go in peace.